and welcome to this week's episode of the Dr. Tech Show on YouTube, where myself, Pauline Roche, and Sweyn Hunter and guests, and we have special guests today, guide you to the world of online communications and digital inclusion in a show which was the brainchild of the late great John Popham. So in usual fashion, we will find out how the weather is where people are coming from today. So let's go straight to our very special guest today at Lewisham Irish Centre, Winnie and group. How are you and what's the weather like there?
We're all well, and the weather is a bit cloudy today.
Okay. So nothing we're not used to.
Yeah, typical Irish weather.
Absolutely. Great. Very welcome to the show. Sweyn, let's go to you. Where are you and what's the weather like there?
I'm in Orkney in Kirkwall, and after a beautiful sunny if breezy day yesterday, it's overcast and a bit chillier today. In fact, I'm just beginning to think I should have put my fleece on, but I'll be all right.
You'll soldier on.
Yeah, I'll soldier on.
Yeah, very good. And we're also joined by Paul Clayton. Paul, where are you and what's the weather like where you are?
Okay, I'm in Deptford, southeast London, in the art shed. At the art hub, and it's very variable. It's just gotten bright, but then it goes cloudy again.
Okay,
so it's a bit odd.
Interesting. Yeah, and here in Birmingham, I can see blue skies out the window, some cloud, but blue skies, which is very nice to see, and hopefully I'll get out for a little walk later. So today we're joined by some very, very special guests. Paul has brought us some very special guests from Lewisham Irish Centre, who he's been working with. So we're very pleased to meet them today and to hear about what they've been learning. So Winnie, can you introduce us to who's with you, yourself, and who's with you today, please?
Okay, so my name is Winnie, and every Monday we have a small group of people come in to do a little IT class, and today we're learning about apps. So that's our topic for today, and I'll just introduce you to my group now. Okay. So this is Eileen.
Morning, Eileen. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much. How are you?
Good.
That's good. Good to hear.
And then this is Sheila.
Hello, Sheila. Welcome to the show. Good to see you.
And then we have Ginny at the back here, and Albert.
Hello, Ginny. Albert, welcome. You're all very welcome to the show. So Winnie, tell us a bit about how the group is getting on and what they've been learning so far.
Well, the group is getting on really well. I mean, we started last year with Paul. Paul was heading up the group, and a lot of people hadn't used devices before, so it was very starting at the very beginning. They've come on in leaps and bounds in that time. With Paul's assistance, I think, they've done really well. They're more confident, and they're using email now. They're using WhatsApp. They're on Zoom meetings. They're doing everything. Really.
Wow.
They're absolutely amazing. So they're a very talented bunch.
Excellent. And what about yourself, Winnie? What's your background in this kind of field?
Well, my background is very different. Yeah. I've worked in admin for many years, so this is a new thing for me. But part of my job here is I'm doing this on a Monday, and then I also run. We have a group on a Friday, so we have all our group coming in on Friday, and we have bingo and refreshments and entertainment. And we also do lunch deliveries on Wednesdays, and we reach out to people who can't leave their houses. So it's a lovely centre. We look after many people here, lots of Irish people and lots of people in the community. So it's a really kind of different kind of job, different every day, but it's a really nice place.
That's good to hear. So maybe we can hear from each of the participants today about what they like about doing this class and what they've been learning.
Okay. So I'll put you over to Eileen now. Would you like to say?
Well, I didn't want to learn the computer, but my friend, her name is Leslie, she got me a tablet, and for weeks and weeks she came and set me up for the Zoom, and I saw how wonderful it was that we were able to connect with each other because we're all housebound at the time. Then it was introduced, like there was ITT class that's been held, so I came along, but I really didn't want to know. I didn't want to learn, and Paul was very patient with me. Absolutely. And now I'm so pleased because with having to pay and contact people, if you've got gas problems, electricity payments, there was nobody there to. The only way you could get through to them was by email. So
Yeah.
I've stuck at it, and I'm so pleased I did. And I thank Paul very much for having so much patience with me, because every week I said to him, I haven't done any homework. So don't expect anything. But I think I'm so pleased I've stuck at it, because I've been able to contact the council, the gas company, my grandchildren, which is wonderful. And I thank him very much. And also Winnie, who's got the patience of a saint.
That's brilliant to hear, Eileen. It's such a joy to us who do help anybody else in the community, because we know how great it is to be able to be online, how important it is as well. And what you want to do matters very much, and it's great that we've been able to help you even a little bit.
Oh, wonderful. I'm so pleased. I can't tell you enough how pleased I am.
What would you say was the most enjoyable part of it for you?
Oh, the banter.
Yeah.
The banter, I can tell you, yes. I gave Paul a lot of stick. And he was wonderful. It's like a social event we're having, and we're learning, and we don't know we're learning.
Yes.
There's no kind of pressure like homework and stuff like that. But yes, it's like a social event.
That's great to hear. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for telling us your part of the story. Can we go on to your companion next, the one person beside you? Thanks very much.
Hello, I'm
Sheila.
Well, my story is very much the same as Eileen's. I didn't want to learn because I was frightened. And I've only got the phone, and it was Leslie, who runs the Diamond Club, who first helped me, and her husband got me onto Zoom. And that was my start. And then I came to the classes with Paul. And as Eileen said, he had a lot of patience because I just didn't know what I was doing, a couple of lessons. But I have learned to email. I have learned to understand my phone more. So it has done me a lot of good. I've still got a lot to learn, but I definitely am getting there. I'm very pleased. And Winnie's been a great help as well.
That sounds wonderful, Sheila. Have you used any other devices besides a phone now? Are you using a laptop or a tablet?
No, I'm not, but I am going to think about a laptop because the phone is small.
Yes.
And sometimes it is hard to get things up on it. So I am thinking about that. As Eileen says, everything now is you have to do an email. You don't pick the phone up now and phone the companies up, gas, electric, council. So I think I am going to go on to that.
Great.
In the future.
Thank you very much, Sheila.
Thank you.
Very good to hear from you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll take it to Ginny now.
Yeah, it's 12 o'clock, a bit less loud.
Oh, that's okay. Albert, yeah. There's Albert.
Hi, Albert.
Hello.
How's it going for you?
Very good, very good.
What have you been learning, Albert?
Well, I've learned how to email and answer my emails and send emails, and I'm quite happy with the class. Very good teacher, Winnie. So
and what did you know before, Albert?
Nothing.
You didn't have computers at school then?
She's coming up on 80. It
was a while ago, so.
At the end of time, I'll be able to hopefully book my holiday tickets and pay my electric and line, all that.
Yeah. So it's good to be able to do that.
And Dr. Pine, so and if I have to speak to anyone these days, I may go online.
Yeah.
Not perfect. I'm
It's
very
good
happy with that.
Good to hear that you're learning, Albert, and I hope you can continue to benefit from the classes.
Oh, good.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Ginny.
Hello. Pauline, okay?
That's Pauline, yeah.
Hello,
Hello,
Pauline.
Hello, Ginny. How are you getting on?
Yes. Fine, thank you. Still a
What
bit
have you been?
rusty at times. Well,
What have you been? What have you been
email,
learning?
how to do emails and apps. Got a new one about apps.
Mm-hmm.
And how to get online and do banks. All banks are closing at the moment, and then all useful information that I need to be.
Excellent.
Okay.
And what are you looking for? What are you hoping to learn in the future?
Well, eventually, it's better just an exercise for me, and you know, it's something we have to do now.
Mm.
Like, you know,
Well, hope you continue to enjoy the classes. Yes,
Sorry?
great. I hope you continue to enjoy the
Thank you very
classes.
much.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, I do. It really is lovely to get.
Good.
Thank you.
Very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So that all sounds really good, Winnie. That everybody's so keen, and it's good for people to other people who are listening to this show to see that there are people who didn't want to learn, who weren't keen or nervous or a bit frightened at the beginning, and what difference is made to them now.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's just to take that fear away, and just to see that everybody's in the same kind of boat. So it's just to take it nice and slowly and to take that fear away and make it just something that we look at every day. And they've come on and leaps and bounds. They really enjoyed themselves. So it's a pleasure for me.
Good, that's great. What have you learned yourself?
I've learned a lot. I've learned from Paul as well. He's been brilliant, absolutely brilliant teacher. And just to look at things differently, just to take your time and just think about what it is that older people have to face out there, because everything is online now. It makes it so much more different. Things like the doctor making an appointment to the dentist, aware of that. It certainly made me aware of it. And hopefully we're able to take away, the hardness of doing that, make it more of an easy thing to do, and just to make other people aware as well. These are the obstacles that people are facing today.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. We often talk on this show about that, and how the government has said to suppliers that they need to provide a non-digital way of accessing services as well. So we need to agitate for both, for people to develop the skills to be able to use online, but also for services to be aware that not everybody wants to be online either.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, Paul, is there anything you'd like to say before we leave Winnie to get on with her class?
No, I'm just taken by their enthusiasm. That's nice to hear. Always the compliments are good. No, they were a great class, and they were very frightened. A lot of them were saying that they did need one-to-one support, but really what it is that they really needed to know that other people were in the similar position than themselves, and just work things through, and taking time.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I think we'll let Winnie and the class go if they want to get back to the learning, and we'll carry on with the show. Is that okay?
Lovely. Well, it was very nice to meet you all today, and thank you for having us.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us,
Bye-bye.
Winnie.
Thanks, Winnie. I'll speak soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Oh,
There
that
we
was
are.
nice.
That was great.
That was great.
Wow, Paul.
That's a very good group.
Excellent.
They're wonderful. They really were a joy to work with. They're actually, really, like I said, they were all, and some of them are they sort of fall into those categories of completely scared, but also some people were really already doing things but didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
They had no fear in some ways. So, but there were all sorts of strange things would happen. So yeah, it was just talking about all the real world applications of all this rather than trying to get down with the glamour and oh wow, gosh, wow, this is so great.
Yeah,
That's the
absolutely.
thing.
Okay, well, we'll go back to the usual format of the show now, Paul, and then we'll come back to you again in a few minutes, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, great.
Great, thank you very much. So we've got a few dates that we picked out as happening around this time of year, and the first one is on 16th of May, which is today, is the actually International Day of Living Together in Peace. And this is all about accepting differences and having the ability to listen to, recognize, respect, and appreciate others, as well as living in a peaceful and united way. And the UN General Assembly declared this day as a means of regularly mobilizing the efforts of the international community to promote peace, tolerance, inclusion, understanding, and solidarity. And the day aims to uphold the desire to live and act together, united in differences and diversity, in order to build a sustainable world of peace, solidarity, and harmony. And the day invites countries to further promote reconciliation to help to ensure peace and sustainable development, including by working with communities, faith leaders, and other relevant actors through reconciliatory measures and acts of service, and by encouraging forgiveness and compassion amongst individuals. So I thought that was a good one for us to mark, since we, want to we recognize lots of differences in that people have, and encourage them to gain more, and it mentions inclusion there, so I think digital inclusion can be part of that as well. So we're happy to mark that one. And the next one is tomorrow, which is World Telecommunication and Information Society Day, another UN day, and they had a theme on their page of digital technologies for older persons and healthy aging. It says the aging of the global population will be the defining demographic trend of the 21st century, yet our societies struggle to see the opportunities that this trend can unfold. Telecommunications and information communication technologies have a role to play in achieving healthier aging, but also in helping people build smarter cities, combat age-based discrimination at the workplace, ensure financial inclusion of older persons, and support millions of caregivers across the world. So this year's theme raises awareness of the important role of telecommunications in supporting people to stay healthy, connected, and independent, physically, emotionally, and financially. Supporting a life of healthy aging is also critical for the sustainability of economic and health systems. And the International Telecommunications Union hopes to foster initiatives to accelerate digital technologies for older persons and healthy aging that will contribute towards the UN Decade of Healthy Aging. So I thought that was a good one for us to pick up on, Sweyn. It speaks directly actually to our guest today as well. So it seemed like a very appropriate one.
Yes.
Okie doke. And one event before we go back to talking to Paul, which is on this week, the West Midlands Funders Network have their annual conference, and the theme it's called Sustainability, Funding and Climate Change. And it's for funders and other people interested in funding in the West Midlands, whether environmental specialists or not. And it says they can now take action to help local communities ensure a sustainable future. There are important links between sustainable development and social justice in our communities. Combining social and environmental concerns is critical to tackling the root causes of ill health, poverty, and disadvantage. And when combined, this approach will support greater and more inclusive economic and social change. For the conference, you don't need to have an environmental funding program to contribute to the sustainability and climate action agenda. If funders funding addresses poverty, disadvantage, or ill health, then considering sustainability in your operations, funding policy, and practice will support sustainable development and social change. The blurb goes on to say, whatever your organization's size, mission, and priorities, we can all play a part in addressing the causes and impact of climate change. Mitigating climate change and the human suffering it will bring is a major theme in philanthropy today. So it's an action-packed 2-day conference online to explore sustainability, funding, and climate change in more detail, and find out how funders in the West Midlands can respond now and in the future to support local communities. So it is a West Midlands focused event, but I'm sure anybody who is interested in sustainability and funding would find it of interest. And tickets are still available. and there are some concessions for organizations. So, you might even get a free ticket if you're so inclined. So let me encourage people to investigate it. And full disclosure, I'm a trustee of the West Midlands Funders Network. So I am encouraging people to go along to it. Okay.
And it is, as it says, an online event. So there's nowhere to go to as such to attend.
No, just go on to the Zoom links that will be sent to you if you sign up.
Yeah.
So that's Wednesday and Thursday this week. Okie doke. So let's go back to our special guest, who's a regular on the show. We actually had him last on with us in October. Paul Clayton. He's a freelance trainer, artist, community ICT support. Sorry for my stumbling over the word there. Person-centered delivery, and a fellow of the School of Social Entrepreneurs. Paul is a self-taught and motivated individual with lots of working experience in this field, giving technical support, and has recently set up a new venture called
Comfortably Digital.
Sweyn, have we got it on screen? Comfortably Digital. Thanks, Paul. You're very welcome back to the show. And how have you been since October?
Well, yeah, things have been cracking on. Very busy as of late. Trying to really pull this community interest company thing together. It's been. I joined the School of Social Entrepreneurs in 2014, and I didn't make a CIC then, and I've done it twice since. This is my third attempt because I never really saw the need, and finally the landscape indicated I should do that, so I can actually come in rather than a freelancer trying to garner funding from organizations to actually get funding to assist organizations to try and turn that around on its head.
Okay. And how did you come up with the title?
Well, it's actually a name of a project I did some years ago when I was doing a project called Connecting for Care when I was doing the School for Social Entrepreneurs. And I was very interested in working with care workers. And I'm a Tai Chi practitioner, and I'm really interested in posture, and hence the comfortable part. And I ran a small series of sessions to just talk about that. And I found a lot of people, the moment you talk about how they sit or anything, they just change instantly.
I did that just now. I realized,
I decided to resist that impulse. So I'm still
I applaud you, Sweyn. Thank you. I like that. It isn't any Vulcan mind control technique.
It's kind of weird if everyone on the screen suddenly goes, "Ooh."
Oh yeah. So that's where it comes from. It was from a project I started some time ago, and there's also a sort of slightly humorous sort of angle to it. The Soul Chip name that I've been trading as a freelancer for years is really problematic on the phone. So people say Soul Ship.
Yeah.
I've even had one unfortunate instance where it's Soul Chimp, which I was not happy with. I was not happy with.
Like MailChimp.
Yeah.
I see where you could get that from.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's the spelling of soul, just all of that really.
Sure.
Is it
just problematic.
Yeah.
So
it's good to think about those things. Yeah.
I just felt as a branding exercise, it was it was useful.
Yeah. Great. So we've just been earlier in the show, we were joined by some of the people that you've been working with in Lewisham, and they just seemed like it's wonderful to see it live. We know there are groups like this happening up and down the country, and it's great and very generous of them to allow us to be part of their class today when they've got lots of things to learn and do and share some of the learning and the enjoyment that they've been having. Some didn't start off wanting to learn, so that was a challenge for you, Paul. Yeah,
absolutely. It's really liaising with filling in gaps and things that go on with people. It just it's too much hassle sometimes, or it's too many things to learn, and it really is just about taking time. It's one of those things in life that we seem to have less and less of, but it's what is my phrase at the moment for this? Oh yes, a beginning of empathy. So it's just having a bit of time for someone just means that you're actually making a bit of an effort to deal with them as a person, and it's not really a bit. It sounds terribly what's virtuous, but sometimes it doesn't have to be. It's just really getting to grips with the nuts and bolts of some things that are now becoming very day to day.
Absolutely, yeah. And did you make the approach to Lewisham, or did they approach you about it?
There's an organisation called Community Connections, which liaises between organisations in Lewisham. They are part funded by, I think, which is it? Not, one of the older. There's two organisations. So the one's Lewisham Council, and one of them is Age UK. That's it. And they furnished me with an introduction to Kathleen, the manager, and we just started talking. And Kathleen seemed happy with what I was saying. And then we met up and started. Interestingly, what it was, they were on the edge of going into lockdown, so she was very concerned about the group going online and using Zoom for their qigong sessions. They actually get these exercise sessions, and I'm a bit of a, like, say, Tai Chi and qigong. I'm all into that, so I was really doubly interested at that point. So I was brought in under that, to give them that sort of understanding of the beginnings of it. And then literally within the first session of just meeting them, the second week, we're all in lockdown scenarios. So everything was just purely online and really hard, really, really hard. I had to create all sorts of situations and keep the tone very light and talkative, and just I created a bunch of videos just to start talking about all this stuff. I called them a straight talking guide to, email and web and stuff. Just no frills, no messing around, just straight to the point, because people have these questions, and it's better to just get on with the nuts and bolts of it. So yeah, we started off there, and then eventually managed to get back in the ROM, as it were. Which was useful. So
are those videos still available, Paul? Are they online somewhere?
They're on my Soulship site. I can, they are, where are they? I can furnish you with them. They're a little bit old now, obviously.
Well, you can pick them up after the show if we can't get them straight away.
Fine.
But it might be of interest to other people, because we are all, lots of us are still in the early part of the learning phase, and it's good to see, to share resources that are out there, because in my work, I try not to reinvent the wheel. There's plenty of good stuff out there, and if you've done it, then I'm very happy to share that with other people, if that's okay with you.
Yes, fine. I mean, I've also, at that same time, I was just finishing off a project for sort of around online GP practices, and I created a bunch of printables. So what I've been trying to do, I think I've mentioned this before, is to bridge a few gaps. And I was looking at hybrid sort of mail services. They don't really scale up very well. They're okay for ones and twos, but when you start emailing a whole bunch of documents out, so posting a lot of documents out, it becomes quite expensive. But that was sort of part and parcel of the idea. If I can't get to meet people, then I'll send them a document on how to get to Zoom, and then go from there. So the things developed, and we're now at the position where just recently that we've had to come back away from the weekly sessions, but I'm hoping to go and see them in the near future. And I really wanted them to have a Zoom meeting. I really did.
There
we are. Yes.
And now they have. I hope some people don't enjoy the experience of being kind of seen like this on screen, but I hope it's been a good experience for them. They certainly seem very confident in being able to speak about what they've learned, and they're enjoying it. And as I say, it's good for other people to hear that some people start on this learning journey not wanting to do it, but feeling that they have to, and then over time maybe getting into thinking, actually, this is okay and I can do this.
It does take time, and I think what has to happen, it's about dispelling all sorts of approaches and attitudes, and also getting to grips. One of my favorite phrases is that we love our friends and family, but their advice and digital cast-offs are very variable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. And also, it's easier to learn, isn't it, from someone who you're not related to? You know, even in my own team, we're encouraging each other to kind of swap family members to teach, because you know it's easier to take it from somebody you're not related to or married to or whatever.
Oh yeah, it's like 21st century driver instruction.
Yes.
It's exactly the same scenario. I've tried teaching my mum, and that lasted about 30 seconds.
Yeah. Maybe we could have a new matching dating app that's for digital, digital support.
Oh, that would be great.
Swap your relatives with somebody else who can teach them. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, sorry.
Oh, go on, Paul.
I was just going to say, one of my hopes is to try and start one day is to try and get a bit of a channel going where people can get tech support, but that's another game for another day.
Yeah. I mean, there are I was just looking through my notice board the other day, where I keep all the kind of flyers of local offers and national offers for to help people. And Citizen Online do a telephone service, and I think Lloyd's Bank Digital also offer some kind of telephone support. Have you used them, Paul?
I can't say I have. I'm aware that AbilityNet also
yes,
have a similar service. They used to do a at-home visiting service, but obviously that and unfortunately, I don't think it was the spread of volunteers meant that they didn't get down to this part of London. So that what happened to, but now with a phone-based service, there's that's different. I've also heard of a service for carers as well, which is a phone-based service.
Okay.
I think it's great. I think it's a really useful situation. But what happens is that it doesn't dig people out of holes. It doesn't provide interventions to get people set up. It just there's a sort of a place where it takes people from that they're that they've been set up and everything else. It's problematic if they don't have a clue.
Yeah. I mean, when I'm asked now about other people who want to set up services similar to the ones we offer at Northfield Community Partnership, I say to them the kind of the face-to-face support is invaluable, really, and we run digital drop-in sessions around the two constituencies that we work in, and people do find it useful to be able to turn up with their device and just ask the questions that they've got. It kind of moves them on, and gives them confidence in going to the next thing they need to learn about. So what kind of other things have you been doing since October, Paul? And what trends have you noticed in the work that we're all doing?
Okay. Well, I've been getting my head down into this CIC, so I haven't really I haven't been watching. I must be honest. I've been really trying to just get on with my own thing. I've noticed that there's still a lot to do, and there's still a lot of things that just keep on happening. So what you've just said there is very pressing. I think what's happening is the loss of banks on the high street is proving problematic. The things like that, real on face-to-face services, and then replacing them with online services is really problematic. I'm sort of slightly out of the loop these days in terms of the digital inclusion scenarios. Myself and Casper from Clay Community Web, we get together every now and again and have a chat. And it does seem like what I'm faced with and what he has is definitely a matter of geography and about how situations roll out and pan out. He's working in a few different boroughs, delivering all sorts of services, where my work is not really in Lewisham. I've just started with I've got some new groups coming up, so I can tell you about them. I can tell you about some new stuff if you don't mind.
Yes, please.
I've got this is very much under the Comfortably Digital sort of mandate as well. So I'm working with groups now, and this is one of which is a Tenants and Residents Association in South East London, who are all volunteers in food banks and clothes banks and all doing good deeds, and they're really not quite up to speed on their skills, and they feel they need to be brought up a bit. So what has happened, they've got a very interesting scenario from the lottery fund, whereby instead of actually going to the lottery and saying, we've got an XYZ project and we have to show that we've got a need, instead what it is, the lottery have said, here's some money, use it in your own XYZ ways that you see fit, which makes a lot more sense, really. So that was really interesting. That's just began, and I'm hoping to work with a group of parents who are critical friends to a council about SEND requirements for children. So they're parents of SEND children. So
Special
acronym time,
educational
needs. Yeah, special education needs.
Yeah.
And this includes a whole bunch of issues. So it could be learning disabilities, it could be autism, it could be all sorts of things. And these are parents who are, they are classed as professional parents because they're on a proper board and they're getting funded by the Department of Education, apparently. And they are lacking. They're all degree qualified and such, well, very educated, but they don't really have skills. So my job will be to give them I think I've got a sort of publishing approach that I want to do. I want to try and get them to understand how to get on with their, they have parents that go out to places and they have meeting spots. So it's how they publish that and how they get on with that and work as a team. Because what happens is that there's always problems with publishing in terms of the gritty, horrible things and who's going to do that. So if you have a team and if you plan your editions in advance, hopefully things will work a bit better, you know. So yeah, that's sort of on the horizon at the moment. I'm also working with visual impairment again, with a local provider, which is always challenging, especially when some of the people are actually have no sight. Always the hardest part, and trying to work in situations where I'm trying to be very diplomatic now because it's very, very problematic for me in general. The machines and the systems aren't really there for them. That's it in a nutshell.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Do you mean they just don't exist, or that group doesn't have them, or both?
Well, what happens is that I think I'll give you some context and go back in time. Okay. I was the last tutor at Lewisham College to actually deliver a disability orientated ICT course. I can say with that all certainty because I tried to actually get some money for better software and I couldn't. I was then told that everyone was being mainstreamed next year.
Okay.
Means that people with disabilities are brought into the classroom with everyone else. What would happen, those with a visual impairment would get a VisImp profile. And therefore, when they logged onto the college network, their machine would be loaded up with their settings and appropriate software. Now, that is quite a highfalutin situation. But what happens is it then also means that teacher in the room has to deal with problems of a different nature other than just the normal class. And it's not always right. It doesn't always gel well, especially I know a lot of ICT teachers know about this stuff, know about accessibility, but I mean, I don't claim to be an expert, but what happens is that some of it is very fiddly, and if someone isn't trained on using it, then they're going to have problems when they're moving on with learning in another way. So this is what I'm saying about when you're in a different environment, like the one I'm in at the minute, where there's no real special software or no real tools for them,
Right?
And they're given just the bare bones. Well, what happens there? Well, okay, well, we can just start with typing and then go from there.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it's a good start. Getting some core skills in, but what's got to happen now? There's also issues around pastoral care and giving these people some exit points. The purpose of the course is to get them socialized and using this stuff a bit more. And it's really tough to give them some exit points when all they're faced with is just the usual, like, shall we say, an able-bodied approach. It's a little bit like I don't know if you know, the social model of disability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to explain what that is for people who might not know?
Certainly. It basically, well, I may get a little bit wrong, but basically it means that society has all the problems that it gives to a disabled person. And what happened is that person isn't being assisted in their way through society.
It identifies
society doesn't actually change.
That the barriers are in society, not in the person. So it's so if a person wants to access a building, for example, that it's not, and they need a ramp, and if a ramp isn't there, that's the barrier. That's identifies.
That's right.
That's the barrier, not the person. Not that the person can't walk up steps. That's not the barrier. The barrier.
That's right.
Is the
social model of accessibility.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. And so then there's also the medical model of disability, which also means that the person with the disability or the illness is basically the problem.
Yeah.
Seen as the problem.
Yeah. And interestingly, I was looking into this one day and I found that there's a place in Ireland which is it's a centre for universal design, when you mention it about ramps and things, which ultimately means, I tried to sort of think about this in more ICT terms, because what happens is if you do things that are more universal in approach, then everyone benefits, not just people with a disability, but like people of all ages as well. So
absolutely.
In all sorts of situations, it opens it, instead of just one route of entry into the building, which would be steps, like you say, putting a ramp changes the dynamic, and then a mum or a father with a buggy can get in easily as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's really interesting. So so coming back to the point about just providing just the bare bones of a computer and access, it's a good start, but it needs some extra points for people to be able to go on to. Some of the people I'm working with don't seem to have a computer, and then I'm drawn into my information and guidance head comes on, and I go, right, what can we do there?
Yeah.
You know, what do we have to do? Because you're only getting practice once a week. When you finish this course, what happens next? Do you just go back to what was going on before? And I've also been thinking about, I've got a new set of things going on with this company. On things, I'm very good at wandering off. So what I've been thinking about, I've been thinking about mapping areas. I've been thinking about how local organisations communicate with one another, and how what can happen is that when everyone's scrabbling around for money, as the situation would be, that basically things you've got to start communicating. You've got to start communicating, and you've got to bring up your game a little bit. And I've also been thinking about how organisations relate to their beneficiaries and their locale, and about, well, what phone shops are that they can relate to, what can they send people to, where they're reliable. They're trying to build trust. I think that's the thing. It's trusted networks, which is a computing term. So yes, they're things I'm thinking about nowadays. I'm sorry if I don't have any news. Oh, thank you. I'm pleased.
This is all good. Yeah, absolutely.
Putting the bits together and letting them work together, it's very important.
It's exactly the sort of things we do talk about on a regular basis. Yeah, and in fact, one of the stories we picked up for the show this week was about the Digital Inclusion Toolkit, which was developed by councils for councils. And they're doing a survey at the moment asking for feedback on the kit and kind of what people find useful. And I found it useful just to do the survey actually and kind of see what they say is available and what they think should be available. I don't know if you can bring that up on the screen, Sweyn.
Not finding it.
It was on the grid towards the end of the
Right, okay.
toward the end of the story. I think it's the second last story we had listed.
Digital
come back to it
divide.
if you can't find it straight away.
Digital divide widens as providers refuse services. No, that's
It was
right. Survey Monkey. That's a clue.
That's the one. Survey to help improve the digital inclusion toolkit.
Right, okay, let's share that one. Okay.
Yeah.
So here we are. So yes, it doesn't give you very much information.
No, it's not a well. It's very basic, I think, survey, but it's kind of, you know, explaining, as we know, that millions of people across the UK are struggling with access to vital services, and digital inclusion tool, digitalinclusionkit.org was founded to combat this, and they're collecting useful digital inclusion advice from organizations across the country, and growing a community of those willing to share what works, which sounds exactly the kind of thing that Paul and I have been talking about. Yeah, if we can encourage people to fill in the survey and just to know that it's there and see the kind of questions that they're asking, I think it might help us think about what's needed. The survey is open until the 20th of May, so if people want to contribute to it, we will encourage.
There's a Twitter account as well, which is Dig Inclusion Kit, DIG Inclusion Kit, KIT. So there we are. We'll put all that on the description of the YouTube video.
Sounds great. Speaking of toolkits, Casper has linked me up with something called Live IT, which is a really interesting EU project for people with learning disabilities, and that's also another toolkit approach, which I'm always fond of. It's strange. I'm sort of coming in at the latter part of it, unfortunately, and my timetable's keeping me out of it. But it's promising to have some interesting outcomes as just some straightforward tools for people.
Yeah, that's Casper from Clear Community Web, who's been who Paul introduced us to, and who's been on the show a couple of times as well. So we're always interested to hear what he's up to. Yeah, that sounds really good. And the stuff about people with visual impairments, again, in Northfield, we've come across a few people in that situation, and it's good to know what's out there. And we were thinking of kind of bringing them together. There's just 2 people at the moment, but I think, you know, if you share a challenge, shall we say, in life, it can be helpful to know that somebody else is facing similar challenges and what they use to address them. One of the apps that I think both of these guys find useful is it's a shopping app of some sort, where their device can read the barcode on a tin, for example, and tell them what's in it, so they can end up, you know, opening a tin of beans when they want to, not a tin of peaches, for example. Yeah, those kind of things are helpful. And, you know, if someone's been through it before, why not help somebody else who's maybe at the beginning of their journey on this in this situation? Okay, let's go to some of the stories then. Sorry, Paul. Seeing Eye, yes, I think that's what it's called.
I think that's Seeing AI. I know of it.
Yeah, it sounds good. So let's cover some of the stories, and Paul, do feel free to chip in. We picked up one called Ration Challenge. This was one that you picked up, Sweyn, a few weeks ago, I think.
Just another example of an online campaign. I mean, it's not really got an awful lot to do with digital inclusion, perhaps, but I just like to see nice examples of campaigns that really do fundamentally rely on the web to get going. And this is it's not a new scheme. It's happened in previous years. It's called Ration Challenge, and it's organized by a group called Concern Worldwide. And basically what you can do is you can sign up to receive a week's worth of rations as you would receive food in a refugee camp. And when you see how little it is, you and then especially if you were to actually go through the week simply relying on that food, then it really does sort of focus your attention on how challenging it is in every way to be a refugee. And there are various little tweaks to the basic thing. You can sign up. They can do things like sign your friends up and receive, like an ounce of coffee, as well as the very limited rice and beans and tuna fish that is available for the normal pack. So I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah.
Online thing.
Yeah. It's the rations are the same as the Syrian refugee would get living in a camp in Jordan. So it's we'd be interested to hear if anybody has done that and how they feel about it. And I think similar to that.
There's a specific week to do it in, which is the 19th to the 25th of June, but you can do it at any time before or after that if you want to.
Good. Okay, and back to Twitter, where we do find a fair amount of stories coming up. This was a fraud scam alert, and we're always warning people about being safe online. This is from Lenny Leonard, a scam that he said is we are not only seeing at my bank, but it was attempted on me as well with one of my accounts at another bank. So we go through the tweets. The fraudsters apparently have found a way to mimic your bank's customer service or fraud hotline phone numbers, and they send a fake fraud alert text asking if you recognize a charge in your account, and you should reply yes or no. So once you've done that, then it presumably takes you through. They reply from the number that appears to be your bank's legitimate phone number, but they're masking the true number, and they ask to verify your personal and account information in an attempt to access your funds. And once they gain access, your expletive not very good. So the advice from Lenny is to, if you ever have someone call you and say they're a bank, do not provide information like that over the phone on an inbound call. So this is kind of ramping up the usual advice to call your bank. But if someone's calling you, tell them you need to call them back and make sure you're dialing the number on the back of your card and not a number that they give you, because it's easy to be, get agitated and feel you have to respond quickly. So, as we know from previous times we talked about this, urgency tends to be play into the hands of scammers, and they feel like if they make you feel you have to do something urgently, that you'll make mistakes. So when this person called Lenny and started asking questions, he immediately said he would have to call back, and they came back with, "Oh, you could just look at your card and see it's the same number." So he said, well, he worked for a bank and he knows what he's doing, so this person can go away. And the person hung up. So Lenny was clever enough to be able to, kind of deal with this, but we all need to be aware of this. And he called the bank and they said that no alerts were sent and no unusual activity was noticed. And apparently this type of scam is now a known issue across multiple financial institutions. So unfortunately, if you do give access to people with your details, you have little recourse. So it's important to, as we've said, we've had Simon Finch on the program before, Paul and Sweyn, as you know, and we've talked, and I talk now when I'm talking to people about for being fraud, being alert for frauds and stuff, that we need to have a plan of what we're going to do when this happens to us. And it's not if anymore, it's more than likely it will happen to us at some stage, and we need to know what we're going to do to stand up against it. Paul, have you come across this happening to any of the people you're working with?
No, I haven't. I think they've been very lucky in that respect. They're very, very. Actually, I've found that everyone that I work with who's learning has quite an interesting attitude, and it's not just fear, but it's a certain case of, well, this is a likelihood that it may happen as well. So a lot of them don't like online banking for that reason.
Yes,
to make things a bit easier. So you see what I mean? They don't want to be in that vulnerable position in the first place.
Yeah.
So I can say that it's not. There's actually it's a fairly reasonable attitude to take.
Yeah. I mean, the banks and other institutions, I think, have made us feel like we should do stuff online and that we should, it's convenient and stuff. They don't factor in the conviviality of going to a bank branch actually and speaking to somebody behind a counter, meeting other people in the queue and stuff like that. So, and there's a lot to be said for that, not just for older people.
Absolutely. I think post offices still play a large part of that. And, there's a huge space that going to a place to do something still has, because it's not just it's the journey, you know, you never know who you might meet on the way. It gets you out the house. I mean, it serves all sorts of purposes. I think the convenience is really the word there that really should be looked at again.
Convenient for who? Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah. That's Wayne. You've been noticing this as well, haven't you? You've
seen I've had lots of phone calls that would take me down a similar path. I think, and I think that the advice there is very good. I mean, it's an American guy that's saying this, but it applies equally well almost in no matter what country. And the advice is, be very suspicious of incoming calls. If you need to check something, then end that incoming call, make sure it's ended, and dial your own call out to a number that you trust, that's on your documentation and that hasn't been given to you by the scammer on the phone. But I think one of the most important things in digital inclusion, and you conversation, what you said there, Paul, just underlines it, is to get people to the point where they understand what the risks are and how to tackle them. And that replaces kind of a blanket fear and nervousness and skepticism about the subject of online services. Replaces it with, you know, caution and understanding and a bit of confidence.
Absolutely. I'm all about multiple formats anyway. And back to that universal approach, there's sometimes you just can't really just have one. Checks won't go away anytime soon.
No. Yeah, that's good to
no matter how hard they try.
Good to know.
They serve a purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next story we had was from I found on LinkedIn from NHS Digital, and it's an app helping to reduce travel to GP practices. So again, you know, we're back to this sort of help more convenience. It can be more convenient for some people. And this app apparently is saving around 22,000 car journeys every month, which is an interesting figure that we didn't anticipate from the app, you know, kind of showing up. But apparently around 200,000 appointments and repeat prescriptions arranged through the app between April and December last year would previously have been made by people driving to the local surgery. So it's a choice. It's giving people a choice of, you know, doing this or you know, doing it online. So and I know some of the people I've worked with have wanted to download the app. My colleague at Northfield Community Partnership, Cheryl, says that when she uses the app, you can book your GP appointments half an hour before they normally open at the surgery. So that could be a great advantage, I think, for some people. So, you know, I think you can combine the convenience of some aspects of it, and then have your, you know, in-person appointment maybe at a time to suit you. So I think, you know, it's about, you know, having choices, really, is what I would say. Paul, what do you think?
I would agree completely. I think it is about having choices, and I think it's about how those choices are made rather than being thrust upon people. You know, definitely, I think it's interesting how the NHS apps have sort of built up. I realised they shifted some time ago to NHSX. Yes. And I don't really know where that's gone. It slipped off my horizon there.
Well, I think that's gone as well, but you know, they're constantly iterating new things. But the app I think will persist. And it's interesting to see the data that they're coming out of it. They also the research found that around 4,100 fewer bus and taxi journeys were made, and about 5,500 fewer train and motorbike journeys. So they really are looking into the transport side of things and the difference that it makes to the carbon footprint and CO2 reduction. So they're appealing to kind of all angles. Yeah, and apparently
reduction in travel is a very important plank of the climate challenge. So yeah. I mean, and health is such a huge sector that it's good. But as you say, Paul, you've got to make sure that you don't strand people online who would rather be, you know, cycling or walking to their local medical facilities, which would actually do them good.
Yeah,
that's right.
Absolutely. So we can come up with a new combination of things. Yeah. Apparently 26 million people are now signed up with the NHS app, which is a nice number. And people are ordering repeat prescriptions In the last 4 months, more than 5.9 million repeat prescriptions were ordered and over 463,000 GP appointments booked. So, yeah, it looks like it's earning its money.
For something like a repeat prescription, which traditionally would have been done by visiting the surgery and just handing in a form or phoning up and just asking for it, I think the online route for that is very convenient, especially if you're a pharmacy. Then, if your GP practice will put your prescription to the pharmacy, and the pharmacy then texts you to say it's ready. That's great service. But there are other things that we want to keep the face-to-face option at least for.
Oh, yes, absolutely. The Ask NHS app is quite disturbing. I was on a focus group for it some years ago, and it just had a nurse with these strangely blinking eyes looking at you.
Yeah.
And they changed it to receptionist, but still the strangely blinking eyes. Hi, what's your problem today? Oh dear.
Yes, not sure I want to get into that with the robot. Yeah, okay. Well, I think we've covered all the ground we can for today. Paul, thanks again for joining us. If people want to contact you now, is the Comfortably Digital website the best place to go?
Yeah, you can Paul at comfortablydigital.org.uk.
Great. That's good to hear.
That's in the video description for the show this week.
Wonderful.
Excellent. Thanks again, and thanks to the people from Lewisham Irish Community Centre. We were delighted to have them on show, and hopefully we'll have them on again sometime in the future. Thanks, Paul, and see you, Sweyn, again soon. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.
Have a great week.
Thanks, everyone. Right. Thanks, folks.